I'd like to begin talking about the political news of the week here in the United States. I'd like to talk a bit about the Michigan Senate primary, which is like really become like basically so much of current American politics. It has become a microcosm, like a sort of a distilled rebrand or rehearsal of the permanent 2016 that we're all are always living in. And of course, we've got Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens. And this is notable because this is the most expensive Senate primary in American history. Something like $60 million in super PAC money has been spent to support Haley Stevens.
A lot of AIPAC money.
And about $31 million of that is AIPAC money.
And I don't even know that all of it, like AIPAC's new thing is kind of funneling it through groups called like Democracy Project.
Yeah, that don't mention Israel.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure they're just like, mask off, like it's just AIPAC money.
And like, this is a DEFCON 1 situation for the Democratic establishment.
Yeah.
Because like, look, they were sweating about Plattner, but like, they got a bullet to fire there.
Yeah.
Or, he fired it himself to his own brain.
I've got my third eye a bit wide open about the chain of events there, but yeah.
And like, the template is there, and they're running the template back again. And the template is, El-Sayed, Saeed bro supporters. He doesn't have the same support among black voters as Haley Stevens, but like,
did you see that clip of the black woman? She was like a local elected official, Michigan voter, who was saying like, we need someone who will represent all races. Like basically,
she was a school board member. And
yeah,
she was like,
yeah.
Like this is very indicative of the thing where it's like, she was like, oh, like we want someone who represents all races, and when you come in here playing your Arab music and like,
a big yikes for me. But it really does feel like 2016 forever. Like Haley Stevens is Hillary, and El-Sayed is the Bernie bro.
And the dynamic here at play is like, it's a shop-worn one if you've been listening to this show, but like for supporters of the Democratic establishment or Democratic centrists or moderates, they cannot argue in terms of like policy or they cannot argue for a set of beliefs or like why they're running against someone like El-Sayed who wants to what's wrong with ending the genocide in Gaza or Medicare for all for Americans? They can't have that argument. So like it becomes about they break in case of emergency. They go back, like they've spent like since Trump got elected being like, oh, wokeness is such an anchor around our neck. We got to get rid of all this woke identity
we
politics
lost
stuff.
Trump because we were too woke about things like trans rights, which is demonstrably
when one
untrue.
of their preferred candidates gets pressed, by a man of color himself, Arab Muslim American
puts
man,
him in an awkward situation.
They break the wokeness in case of emergency, and did you see like, and look, there's not much, like the news here is that this primary race is over.
Yeah, the polling shows El-Sayed.
Yeah, he's up by double digits.
But
it was closer. Like the polling I saw, like of the last month or so, was much closer.
Yes,
and I think it was like I don't know what accounts for it, but like it was close. And then like I really liked like they were like, oh man, like it's getting pretty tight here. Like we got to get Stevens over the line. And like at the DNC or whatever, another break in case of emergency, they tried out Gretchen Whitmer, former governor, and Jim Clyburn, a congressman from South Carolina.
Well, again, shows how like the Democratic establishment will use black voters as a cudgel to use against brown voters.
But like, break in case of emergency, they're like, quick, Haley needs a hot friend and she needs a black friend immediately. Let's get him out. Let's get him out there.
Yeah, trot him out. Trot him out.
And like it's that she had a terrible debate against El-Sayed.
Well, they've also been doing that.
But also, I noticed like in the week leading up to the debate or so, like I guess like sort of the Neera Tanden wing of the Democratic Party, especially like now that they have the bullet to be fired at Graham Plattner, they're going to just fire it again at Abdul El-Sayed.
Yes.
And like many of them have said like quite plainly that like there's just something about this guy.
Well,
he's an abuser. Like if you're a woman, you know that he's like has some sort of like
like intimating that he also has skeletons in his closet, or not going so far as to say like I've heard allegations, but just this intimation.
They're just saying like if you're a woman and you see like the way he looks at you, the
that
camera,
kind of guy.
The way he's like belittled Haley Stevens' many accomplishments.
Yeah, like he's in not rolling over to a woman of some accomplishment. He's basically a rapist or something, which is crazy.
And well, the point is, it hasn't worked.
No, it hasn't. And there's no there. Like that's the difference with Plattner. There was a there. And And, I also think it's really funny that, like, again, like the Hillary model, like all of Hillary's efforts to like go folksy were ashes in every voter's mouth. Like the more you saw of her being like hot sauce in my bag, swag, or like, I'm feeling great, just does not break through to anyone. And Will and I were talking about this off mic, but like that Niratandan day when we were away, but it was like a day on Twitter where all of a sudden it was so clear the talking points had gone out. Everyone was like, and it was coming just on the heels of Haley Stevens doing all of her weird voice stuff, which as a Midwesterner, I got to tell you, that is not the Michigan accent. That is some weird bullshit.
She's doing Midwest minstrel.
Yeah, she honestly is. She honestly is.
And in her closing ad,
yes,
that I want to play in a second, her closing ad is like,
okay, some of you have seen, there's those cool kids on the internet. They're doing the cool kid chatter. Some of them might be the coastal elites making fun of how I talk. Not okay, says my governor. But let's be real. They're making fun of Michigan. They're thinking they're better than us. And what they don't know is I am your voice. And their jokes and their criticism only makes me fight harder.
Very Nixonian.
Yes.
And that it's all about how like the cool kids, they make fun of me because of how corny and inauthentic I seem and how my inability to like talk to voters or articulate myself or like speak in an engaging, charismatic way in public. They're making fun of me and they're making fun of me and the way I talk, and like what they're really doing is making fun of you, Michigan. They're making fun of Michigan. Yeah.
No, you were actually making fun of Michigan.
Yeah, by doing this ridiculous played up accent, which by the way, she's definitely toned down.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But the day I was talking about on Twitter when it was like the talking points had gone out on the heels of The Voice, and it was just like, she's winning me over with her authenticity.
Yeah.
It was like, word search Twitter for like Haley Stevens' authenticity, and it was all right there.
And look, so like now the argument becomes, like now that like I all these same people, like they're throwing in the towel right now. Like the polling, like Saeed's up by double digits.
Yeah.
So now it becomes all about the general election.
Yes.
And like once again, very shop-worn argument that we've talked about on this show. It becomes all about electability.
Right.
And the idea that like, hey, Democrats, like you may be excited for this guy now, but like in a general election, are you really willing to whisk a swing Senate seat?
Well, and they're all but cheering for it because there is,
because like I'm saying, like they're saying like, oh, it'd be a shame if that happens.
Nice candidate you got there. Would be a shame if,
and the thing is, like,
we voted with the Republicans.
For Niratandan, for James Carville, for like all these people, they better fucking hope the Republican wins.
Yeah.
Because like, look, and I'm saying like it's going to be a close race.
Yeah, it does.
In general.
It does. The polling,
it's going to be very close.
The polling is very close.
But like, I would say that like in a general election, you have a better shot with someone who is generally energized the Democratic base. And like has a lot of individual supporters, and like the momentum is with him versus a woman who can only raise money from like Israel aligned super PACs, is not very inspirational or charismatic, and it also has, as part of this primary, like gone to war against the Democratic Party, the liberal Democratic Party base.
Yes.
Liberal, progressive, anti-war, pro-Medicare for all.
Well, and about
and like,
Israel in particular.
I've explicitly told them that like you're sexist for not voting for me.
Well, and as we know, the Democratic establishment would rather like, and there are numbers to support this also. Like they complain about like, oh, it's Bernie bros who like turned around and voted for Trump or something. But no, there are numbers to support that like the people who would actually turn around and vote for a Republican over El Sayed in the general are centrist Democrats.
And like again, like credit to Adam Johnson has made this point many times before. But like whenever you see someone on like CNN or like some talking head or a political commentator or journalist, and they're weighing in on this, like, well, the real question here now becomes electability. Like, oh, like I know, like he's exciting to a Democratic primary, and it's always couched in terms of just purely, just a strategic.
Yeah.
Like a strategic argument that they're making.
And like a numbers base, like pointing to the polls.
And not an ideological one, or that like they're under pressure
because
from donors.
They're already ceding the ground there. They've already lost the battleground there.
And like the thing is, like, like anytime that argument is being advanced, like I think like it is always a stand-in for the ideological preferences of the person making it, who is not an objective, neutral referee just calling calling balls and strikes here, but they are weighing in on a very like on in an area of political conflict between two, competing interests or points of view. They are weighing in on behalf of, and it's just like this has worked for a long time, and I think like. Democrats, I think, like they need to understand like how not just like angry but demoralizing when they have to make this argument over and over and over again, because it always seems to be like what they're saying is that like to Democratic voters, candidates that excite you because they seem to reflect your values and like the policies that you believe in or the things that you'd like to see happen in this country. Yeah, sure, we agree with you on all of that.
Yeah,
but you have to understand though,
they can't win.
You can't have what you actually want, because the true arbiter of who you can or should or should not support are Republican voters in a general election.
Well, and therefore, like we simply have to continue to moderate a model that has not worked electorally.
And like this is why, like I said, like it's a permanent 2016, but like it's the only shot they have to fire, but it's not working anymore.
Right.
It's like it's not working as effective because these same people have lost so many times to Donald Trump and Republicans that it's just sort of like, hey, why not fucking take a shot?
I was also thinking, like if something crazy happens on Tuesday, the Michigan primary, I will eat my words, but it's looking like Al-Sayed is going to win. Again, if he doesn't, I'll eat my words. But I was also thinking this morning, like when I was, kind of brainstorming for The Intercept, I was like remembering the Liz Warren line about, well, like she can still win if you vote for her. And so not only is it like spitting in the face of Democratic voters who are backing and will back Al-Sayed, like if he becomes the candidate in the general election, like, use that line against centrist Dems about like, it's not a foregone conclusion. We're waiting on you guys to back him. Like, he can win. It's like if you vote for him.
There's both. I mean, like there are, I guess, voters who are of the right wing of the Democratic Party that are very specifically like, they try to couch it, like I said, Abdullah Al-Sayed, he can't win. He's a sexist. His supporters were mean to Haley Stevens. And by the way, now that I'm talking about this, big mistake by the Abdullah Al-Sayed campaign to apologize on behalf of people being mean to Haley Stevens.
Yeah, I don't love that.
Because like once you concede that, like they're going to nail you to the wall with it every time.
You're agreeing with the premise.
Yeah. And it's just like,
and it's made in such bad faith. Like again, this was a mistake Bernie made. Which
it's
just
okay
like
to make fun of someone that you don't like.
Credence to the idea that like, our supporters are mean,
and it's giving credence not to the idea that like, our supporters are being mean to this lady because her and her entire campaign are mean, not just in the things they believe in and stand for, but are also been like, this is, like I said, this is a area of ideological and political conflict.
Well, and I'm
like,
sorry,
her feelings are going to get hurt because people are passionate on both sides of this.
And you are allowed to be mean to genocidaires.
Yeah, well, like leaving that aside, like the implication here is that like by being mean or making fun of Haley Stevens, you're not making fun of her or what she represents or her campaign or its supporters. You're making fun of women. You're making fun of women writ large.
Well, and also it's another handy sleight of hand. To just set aside the ideological differences and just make it about like, well, who's the nicer candidate?
Because
they know that they can't really engage on ideological grounds. Like Haley Stevens has not made talking about supporting Israel a big part of her campaign.
No, she's ran away from it as fast as possible.
And yet the money she's taking shows exactly where she stands.
However, like she's not totally abandoning it, because I do want to read this. This is a post from Haley Stevens on Twitter that was made just today, after the latest polls came out.
Yeah.
So like this is where she's in the closing couple days of this primary. Like this is where she's going. She's responding to a clip of Abdullah Al-Sayed saying to AIPAC, like, come at me. And he says here, quote, "You picked Haley Stevens, the least capable candidate in America. If you think you can beat money out of politics, money in your pocket, Medicare for all, I'll tell you what, come at me. I'll tell you what people don't want, money in a foreign government." So Haley responds to this. She quote tweets it and says, "Abdul, we were both on the ballot in 2018. I was capable of winning my competitive primary and general election. You lost. You lost by over 20 points to Gretchen Whitmer, and you will lose to Mike Rogers by talking like this. Everyone in America understands you want to blame all of your problems on Jewish Americans. But, buddy, let me be very clear. I will lower the cost of groceries, ban stock trading for elected officials, stop Trump's abuses of power, and protect Michigan manufacturing. And you'll just be a celebrity whining and writing books to get even richer. You're part of the complainer class, looking for the next book or podcast deal. Bro, I just want to work for Michigan.
Like, how are we not allowed to call out that that's being mean?
Well, it's also
mean
being
and incredibly condescending.
And it's also being anti-Semitic
yes,
as well.
It is.
Because she said, like, Haley Stevens is like, she's not Jewish.
Yeah.
She is not Jewish.
Well, and she's being like,
and she said, when she says, everyone in America understands you want to blame all of your problems on Jewish Americans. When it's like, no, he's being critical of the Israeli government and AIPAC, their lobbying arm in America, which, yes, of course, represents the wishes and donations of Jewish Americans, but it represents
not all of them.
Yeah.
You know, like, that is an anti-Semitism.
Yeah, and like, but yeah, once again, like conflating the state of Israel and its interests with that of every Jewish person in the world.
Which is very much in Israel's best interest to do.
But also another thing I'd like to highlight here is bro. But also when she says you'll just be a celebrity whining and writing books to get even richer. And what I like about that is like this is another like sort of cliche that I hear. I see this repeated over and over again. And like, by the way, do you remember back in 2008? This was the exact line that the Hillary Clinton people used against Obama.
Yes.
That he's a celebrity, he's a best-selling author.
Yeah, he's a little too hip-hop. And it's a way to just take the moment, like an attempt to take the wind out of the sails of grassroots support. Like
exactly.
Anyone you're excited about, anyone who is about to be electorally popular, can all be chalked up to celebrity. You know, like
celebrity. Yeah.
You know, like again, like
which is a stand-in. What's celebrity is standing for? Being popular.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I'm sorry, like you know, like Hillary Clinton and like Liz Warren, these are front of the class girls who are just like, you know, they believe so deeply in the meritocracy and they spurn, you know, like they're mad that like, oh, you know, like a slacker bro with better politics than me is getting support. And that's what popularity is.
Abdul Said is not a slacker bro.
Yeah, I know. He was a public health official.
You know, like, yeah, like he's had a real job.
Yeah,
and like,
I know.
And like, and also married to his high school sweetheart, if you want to talk about, you know, character and gender.
But, you know, like, Stevens was also talking about, you know, like a couple weeks back about, you know, like, in the Brooklyn commentariat, you know, like, she's just like say Chapo also, you know, but like El Sayed is not, you know, he's not a podcaster that I'm aware of.
He's not even a socialist.
No, he's not.
He just wants Medicare for all and for us to stop funding a genocide in Israel.
Yeah, well, that's worse than being a socialist.
Yeah, exactly.
To these people.
And, you know, you and I have talked about this so many times, but like he's just one of the popular kids. He's one of the cool kids. He's just a celebrity.
Like you desperately want to be one of the popular kids because then you could win this primary.
I generally think for this style of Democrat or the way politics is managed in this country, these people genuinely think that if a candidate is popular and there's energy and excitement among the voting base for them, that's like dishonorable.
Yeah.
Or it's like it's cheating in some way. Like, well, of course you win an election if more people want to vote for you than...
We saw this like with Mamdani also. You know, this notion that like celebrity, aka popularity, aka exciting voters is something not just to be distrusted, but like fought tooth and nail. And that like the Democrats would rather win on their own terms, which is to say they would rather lose with a less popular candidate because they don't want to like win in this dishonorable celebrity offering the voters what they want way.
Well, they don't like that's part of the equation. Like whether it's El Sayed or now Troy Jackson, who's stepped in for Grant Plattner against Susan Collins in Maine. Also, in your home state, we got Francesca Hong running for governor. She's running away with that Democratic primary. That I think she has a longer odds to actually win that governor's race.
And a better argument to be made that she might have a tough time in the general. But I'm sorry.
But like you gotta go with your voters.
Well, the logic just breaks down to me. Like it used to be, the Democratic establishment would never ever argue when their candidate would win a primary. They would never win that. Like, okay, well, just because you win the primary doesn't mean you're our best chance in the general. That's the point of a primary.
Exactly. It's like those are the people that the most loyal and like, you know, engaged Democratic voters, like that's who they've chosen. And like, how can you go into a general election with a candidate that is like wholly opposed to like like your electoral that important a part of your
what
electoral
they're basically
coalition.
arguing is that like our best chance in the general would be to spurn primary voters and actually like put forward for the general someone who might have lost the Democratic primary.
Exactly.
Because like, you know, they might have a better chance against Mike Rogers.
And you know what? And you know what? Maybe they're right. Maybe they would have a better shot in the general election. But the point is, like,
I guess you're anti-democratic. What you're saying is you don't want a primary election.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, like they're in a situation now where like a lot of these insurgent candidates are romping in Democratic primaries right now. And they're holding the general election. Like, oh, can you beat a Republican in these sort of purple or red states?
Which is an open question.
That's an open question.
Sure.
Like you know, like I'm not discounting that, but like for these people in particular, like I said, the Neera Tandons, the James Carvilles, there's an ideological component to it as well because like these are, but you know, I'm saying like I take them at their word. These are very right wing people in their beliefs, despite the fact that they like identify as Democrats, and I'm sure they would tell you, oh, we love women and immigrants and abortion and gay people and all that.
Well, let's be real. What issue they are especially right wing on
is Zionism.
Yes.
They're ideologically committed Zionists,
and these progressive candidates are not backing Israel.
Yeah, but there's also like a professional aspect to this as well.
Yes.
Because
definitely.
like if these candidates win, not only will a huge hole be blown through the argument for why we can't have progressive or liberal candidates because they can't win. Well, it's like if they can win, then why the fuck do we keep listening to you?
Well, and also if they can win without like, you know, the DNC brass anointing them, like what's the point of the DNC? What is the point of the Democratic Party establishment? Maybe we should build our own thing. But like you know, like the DSA is trying to do.
Yeah, and like but that's not fair either.
No, yeah.
Because they're doing Trotskyist entryism by running in a primary.
Did you see that crazy piece in the Wall Street Journal about like, you know, and this is I do believe like Democrats feel this way. That like, you know, this terror about being overtaken by this fringe like group that is infiltrating the DNC, you know, and basically drawing parallels to like how Trumpism has taken over the RNC.
Oh yeah, Trump, the guy who's been president twice, and the Republicans control all three branches of government.
Yeah,
it's been such a disaster for the right wing in this country.
Well, you know, it's been a disaster for like I was about to say Hugh Hefner. Who's the guy named Hugh? Who's like the like one of the last Never Trump Republicans. He looks weird.
Hugh Hewitt?
Hugh Hewitt.
No, he's a pro-Trump Republican.
Well, he came around.
Oh, I guess, yeah. Well, yeah, he's a coward and a worm.
But again, like, you know, Republicans understand that winning is what matters.
And you can't win without your base.
You can't win without your base. And so who cares? The Republicans do not care that Trumpism has taken over small c conservatism. What they care about is he's advancing their fucking agenda in the White House and in
and
Congress.
Using the power given to him, the immense power given
Whereas,
to him by
again, Democrats would rather lose and, you know, still be able to be steadfast on Israel and beat back this rising tide of, you know, progressive excitement than they would in handing over the reins to candidates who can win but are not dyed in their wool.
Or yeah, and like, and the other aspect of the professional thing is like, like it blows a huge hole in like the authority that they've given themselves as like the arbiters of like a serious, sober, like just simply like counting the votes.
Yeah.
Do you win an election or not? But also it's like literally their jobs themselves. This whole like constellation of like consultants, media people. You know what I'm saying?
Like exist to like pick candidates who are serious and who are moderate.
Well, to be paid by like these huge super PACs, like with that money,
yeah,
to follow their advice. Like it's all just a patronage network.
Yes.
And if you can win without these people, they're not going to have jobs.
No.
They're not going to keep getting paid.
It really is an existential threat to like everyone who has
this
a job.
whole ecosystem of like, you know, like
which is also reeks a little bit of how quickly they've rushed to. And, you know, it does seem like it was a real fuck up. Like, what's the strategist who, like, you know, did the $3,000 vet on Graham Plattner? His, like, consulting.
Oh, the Morris Katz?
Yeah. You know, like, they've turned on him.
That was a bungle.
Yeah, I mean, of course it was a bungle.
Yeah, but, like, okay, that's a bungle for him, but Bill Clinton still speaks every year at the fucking DNC.
Well, and again,
has anyone vetted him lately?
And again, I'm sorry, it reeks a little bit of... you know, he was kind of eating their lunch, and now it's like, well, you had this high profile.
Well, yeah, now
bungle,
it's a big fuck up.
But you know, like all of the DNC,
but like Neera Tandon's,
think tankatariat,
like none of Neera Tandon's like litany of fuck ups have ever cost her anything in her professional life.
Her entire career has existed to boost Hillary Clinton. How are Hillary Clinton's like? Look at the scoreboard on Hillary Clinton. Like, why should we listen to you anymore?
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
also just like in talking about the professional side of things, like also just this notion of like democratic politics and how things are done, right? Like, like you can't run too much to the left. And also just like the stranglehold they have over the consciences of Democratic voters, and like this consensus is falling away with each of these victories. Just this notion that like the serious thing to do is not to vote for like a guy who says the things you want to happen, like Bernie Sanders, who says Medicare for all, or El Said, who says like let's stop sending money to Israel. What the serious Democratic voter has to do is continue to be held hostage by the DNC, who says you can't have the things you want. Listen to us. We need moderation if we're going to win.
Yeah. Listen to us, who won't give you anything you want.
Yeah, we won't give you anything you want. And that worked while they were winning, but they're not winning recently.
It's because, like, hey, because it's a potent argument because the Republicans are so egregiously terrible and awful.
But again, like the consensus only holds if you don't do things like create Trump 2.
Yeah, exactly. And that, like, this is like in the 10 years I've been doing the show, like, it seems like this glacier is melting a little bit because of the repeated failures. It was really Trump getting elected a second time, really, greatly damaged like the purchase that this kind of disciplining has on the Democratic base, who are, as compared to the Republican base, are, I'm sorry, whipped dogs.
Yeah.
And they really they can't articulate or advocate for a political position or candidate unless given permission by media sources or, individuals that they trust. They need teacher to give them permission. Yeah. Did you forgot to assign homework? I mean, MSNBC,
literally.
I think we're seeing a breakup in that, like, the effectiveness of that kind of ideologically, that disciplining mechanism that they use, where it's like the success that Zoran Mamdani has had, and particularly like the recent elections here in New York City, have really loosened up the stranglehold that permission structure has on Democratic voters, who I think are like overwhelmingly like liberal in their political. They may not be socialist yet, but like.
Well, here's another thing I think the DNC is forgetting is like, the consensus, even while they've been losing, has still mostly held. But I'm sorry, I think what they misunderstand about their own voters is they want to fucking win.
Yeah.
Like,
they're tired of losing.
Like, I think you can only ring the bell so long about and also, oh no, you have to moderate because like that'll be. I'm sorry. Like, I think what you can attribute so much of the progressive excitement to is these people can win. And like I don't even want to say we as Democrats because fuck that. But like Democratic voters want to win, and I think they're also starting to see that like their leaders seem kind of ambivalent on the issue of winning.
Not only that, but like when their leaders are in power or do win an election,
what is it good for?
Well, then it becomes like, oh, well, you don't understand. We can't actually do all the things that you want to do. And like the fact, the example of Trump, particularly in his second term in office, and Zoran too, is like, how come Trump can just do whatever he wants?
Yeah.
How come he can just like instantly use the power of the executive branch to just
Trump is showing what you do with winning.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, because again, I think like winning is almost like an abstract concept to the Democrats. Like it's all just about fundraising at the end of the day. It's like, yeah, we kind of want to win, but like, it's almost more useful to us to like be in the vocal opposition. And again, if we really win, like what they would rather do is lose with quote unquote honor than win by actually offering something that animates voters, because then they might have to deliver on it.
Well, speaking of other people who are getting left out in the cold, I do want to mention, check in on someone, weighing in on the Michigan primary. And it's an old friend of the show, Jonathan Chait.
Oh, boy.
Perpetually like a sage and august voice in our commentariat, who, like you may not agree with him, but like he's always very sensible.
He's also willing to scold.
I may not agree with him, but he's always very interesting.
He's
a very interesting writer and
thinker, really.
Yeah. So he has a piece in the Atlantic, of course, and where he's basically like, I'm just going to read here. It says, Abdul El-Sayed is running for Senate as a Democrat in Michigan, where he is waging a close and bitter contest against Representative Haley Stevens in a primary that will be held on Tuesday. Were he to win and go on to defeat Mike Rogers, the presumed Republican candidate, El-Sayed would become the most fervently anti-Zionist senator. If you want your politics dictated to you by AIPAC or Chuck Schumer, then I'm not your guy, he said during a debate with Stevens. El-Sayed depicts America and its American supporters as the primary author of Donald Trump's foreign policy. He also blames Israel and AIPAC for a wide array of domestic social problems. Asked recently on CNN if he thought there were any reasons other than money that someone might have for a different view on Israel, he said, "Not if you're a Democrat who believes in human rights." Asked if a progressive could also be a Zionist, he replied, "Every definition of a Jewish state ends up in some articulation of illiberal values, every single one."
Show me the lie.
Yeah. And he goes here, going on, he says, but if he goes here, El-Sayed's campaign is currently the left's preeminent cause, held up as key proof that an obsessively anti-Zionist left-wing politics can win outside of blue enclaves. Michigan voted twice for Donald Trump. Should El-Sayed prevail, he would immediately open the door for a new wave of like-minded candidates to follow behind him. You put one ogre on a pike, El-Sayed told donors in a Zoom call, according to Politico, apparently referring to Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, and then everyone else gets the message and all of a sudden starts to sound a lot different. But if El-Sayed's anti-Zionism is obsessive, it's not a singular obsession. He talks about the Israel lobby the way he talks on the stump about nearly any other political issue. The El-Sayed formula is to describe just about any policy as a conspiracy by a corporate entity or wealthy cabal to enrich itself at the expense of the people. It sounds like he's just described politics in America.
Yeah, like you need to articulate that there's an enemy.
The villains in this stories are motivated by pure greed, and trade-offs do not exist. This is a rhetorical style that has long existed on the populist left. The trouble is that when you apply it to the Israel-Palestine conflict, and especially to the question of why some Americans do not share El-Sayed's position on it, his approach grows paranoid and menacing. Okay, when he says here, some Americans. Yeah, that's true, some Americans. But if you consider yourself a voter and a member of the Democratic Party, or at least that is how you identify yourself, that sum is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Right.
And what you're really seeing here is Chait having to argue his way out of being in a vanishingly small moral minority.
Yeah.
Because it'd be one thing if he was doing this as a Republican.
Right.
But he's pitching this to Democratic voters who have overwhelmingly rejected Israel.
Yes.
And not just Israel, but the entire idea of Zionism.
Well, and also not just the progressive left, but liberals.
Yeah, exactly.
And liberals.
Why? Because they look at Israel as and its government as a country that's yes, not just doing apartheid and genocide, but is also working overtime to defeat the Democratic Party and elect Donald Trump.
Literally subvert our democracy. How else do you describe all of this fucking money pouring into Michigan other than an effort to subvert the will of the voters?
And he's just saying El-Sayed is obsessively focused on AIPAC.
I hate that.
It's they just spent $30 million to defeat him.
With him.
And exactly. That's the point I want to make, is for people like Chait, when Israel was a moral majority that favored him, he had no problem with people being obsessive about Israel, provided it was a litmus test that X'd out anyone who even said the word Palestine.
Right.
And now, we can't have litmus tests. We can't be too focused on purity. And it's support for Israel was always a third rail in American politics that you could not touch.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, cutting off support for Israel, or being anything other than
saying
a
anything other
Zionist.
than saying
AIPAC
anything
line.
other than two-state solution.
And and AIPAC has bragged about this for decades, and they've been very effective at it. But now it's all going away, and I know
which is why they're spending it's an existential issue. It is,
and that's why you have to have someone like Chait say his position on it. His approach grows paranoid and menacing.
Yeah,
what's paranoid and menacing? That doesn't describe the Israel lobby in this country.
Mirror.
And he says here, while this populist analysis is extended to Israel, it takes on an even more conspiratorial edge. El-Sayed's efforts to weave a seamless narrative connecting AIPAC to his struggle against wealthy interests has built the Israel lobby into an almost supernatural force controlling American politics behind the scenes. And it's when they were in the driver's seat, they would brag openly about controlling American politics behind the scenes.
we are the supernatural force.
Yeah.
Well, they're still bragging. There have been a couple cases electorally where I think in Illinois, basically after they thanked this guy for being insufficiently pro-Israel. And basically then they went mask off. They were literally tweeting by the way, that was us.
Yeah.
Through a bunch of friend groups.
Yeah. He writes on, he continues on, he says, Here's his little caveat here. He says,
Yeah.
pro-Israel lobbying does play an important role in domestic
yes.
politics.
Okay.
And it does often include spurious charges of anti-Semitism to discredit legitimate critiques of Israel. I like that Chait, he never says what any legitimate critique of Israel would be.
No.
Nor does he say that, like...
Because they're illegitimate to him.
What's the correct way to critique the influence of the Israel lobby and its effect on domestic politics in America? He's saying Al-Said's doing it the wrong way.
Yeah.
But you'll notice that he never articulates what would be the correct non-anti-Semitic way to do that.
Because there is no legitimate way to do so.
Exactly.
To Chait. Yeah.
He said, aid to Israel is not, however, a meaningful constraint on American domestic spending. Oh, well, if it's so little, then it should be easy to cut it off.
Yeah, exactly.
Like... he says the populists are not imagining that they are fighting a well-funded lobby. What they are imagining is that this lobby is the hidden force behind all of the opposition they face. I received a small taste of this political style earlier this spring when I wrote an article criticizing El-Said's claim that he can adopt unpopular left-wing positions without jeopardizing his ability to win a general election. The small left-wing magazine Current Affairs asked him to respond the next month.
Small left-wing magazine.
And he said, I really appreciate the question because I really want to step back. He says, the foreign government he refers to is presumably Israel. El-Said was not merely disputing the merits of my beliefs, which he mischaracterized. I have argued against aid to Israel and have no idea which big corporations he thinks I wish to subsidize. He accused me of representing a vested interest in these policies. His campaign declined to respond to multiple emails requesting clarification as to the nature of this alleged vested interest. The combination of populism and anti-Zionism has introduced a strain of political rhetoric that heretofore has had little place within the Democratic Party. Anyone who observed the Republican Party in the Trump era, however, would recognize the combination of populist demagoguery and edgelord bullying. Informing your supporters that their problems are the result of a shadowy cabal of billionaire conspirators tends to unleash passions that can be difficult to control. El-Said and Trump share a gleeful lack of concern for the consequences. You'll see what he's doing. He's like, if El-Said continues with this anti-Israel populist demagoguery, then he'll be just like Donald Trump. Yeah, the most dominant political figure of our current era.
Unfortunately, a winner.
Yeah,
a winner who is encountering no pushback on getting his agenda achieved.
Although the comparison may sound like an insult, it's one El-Said has invited himself. Earlier this year, he held a campaign event with Hassan Piker, a popular streamer and enthusiast for left-wing authoritarian regimes. When reporters questioned his choice of allies, El-Said replied, if perfectly inoffensive won elections, then Donald Trump would never have been president. Democrats now have to decide whether they think they can win elections this way and whether they want to. And once again, you see here, this is all about like the strategic thing. Like he's like, oh, I'm not weighing in ideologically here.
Well, and he's also answering his own question whether Democrats want to win this way.
No, the answer is no. Yeah, they don't.
don't.
They don't. And like, I mean, him.
And that's why Trump is president. Also,
not the broader Democratic electorate.
Yeah.
So, like I said, like these people. It's like you're only obsessive about Israel. Only becomes an obsession. Like, why are you talking about Israel so much when it's like now it is a wedge issue that you are on the 28 side of an 80-20 split on?
Yes.
You know, because like,
and also like AIPAC is pouring like
who is more obsessed with Israel in American politics than supporters of Zionism?
Well, yeah, and like this, like look at the spending. I mean, come on, it is an obsession to them.
Yeah, they're willing to waste $30 million for Haley Stevens to lose this primary.
Yeah.
Because it's an existential threat to their continued purchase.
I also, and again, this language around like paranoia, whatever. Did you also see that clip that was circulating about like, I don't even know who the guy is. Like a neighborhood voter, he looked like he was working at a diner or something. And Haley Stevens was trying to have like one of those viral folksy moments talking to him. But he said like, I already voted for Al-Said. Yeah. And also very calmly articulated that like genocide is the issue. And Haley Stevens very quickly took her leave from this, what should have been like a nice clip moment.
As soon as the guy said the word human rights, you could see her eye was darted to the door.
Yeah.
She was backing away.
Absolutely. And like that's what these people cannot stomach is the notion that like, and Will, we've talked about this before also, they love to talk about like, genocide being like you're a single issue voter. Like, why don't you care about like anything else? And use it to say like basically you're anti-Semitic. You're only obsessed with Israel.
That you're elite and ensconced from like the the negative effects of like a Republican. And you'd be like, these are elite luxury beliefs.
What they cannot stomach is the idea. And again, we've talked about this. Is to me like supporting Israel, supporting its genocide is a skeleton key issue at this point. Like, if you support Israel, I do not trust what you
What
say.
won't you support?
Yeah, exactly. And I do not trust you as far as we can throw you in terms of, like, I don't know, standing up for reproductive rights, or standing up for immigrants, or, you know, passing Medicare for all. Like, you can pay lip service and say the right things on those issues, but I'm sorry, I do not trust you to stand up for a single domestic issue that I would also find popular and worthy of defending and worthy of espousing.
And what's happened here is that it's become like a shorthand for so many other things. Like, are you willing to stand up to corruption and the influence of like big money in politics, to like, you know, to ensure that political representation never matches the people who vote for it.
Right.
But also, it's just like on a more primal, basic level than that. It's like, can you look at evil and call it as such? Can you look at real, like, unspeakable horror and evil that's not just happening, but happening because of the very specific, very simple actions taken by the U.S. government to underwrite it,
and
to collaborate with it.
The person we were supposed to vote for, Kamala Harris, supported it. You know, like, I'm sorry, if the single issue is not backing evil, yeah, I am a single issue voter.
Yeah, and like this isn't like, you know, we're
it's not lofty
it's
ideology.
Not like you know, like your position on tariffs or, you know, environmental regulation or something like that, where it's just like, nope, like you know, won't protect the spotted owl. Sorry, can't vote for him. You know,
or like, I'm a balance the budget liberal. You know,
like this goes to like I said, this is a question of evil. I mean, I'm sorry to put it in like moral terms here, but people, you know, are emotional beings, and both rationally and emotionally, how can you look at this and not make it your single issue?
Yeah, the killing of women and children.
A red line.
Yeah.
And like another thing I want to mention about Chait's piece about El Sayed is the way he characterizes like the sort of leftist anti-Zionist populism is that like, it's just like they describe like when they talk about like simply like the very clear, like, you know, impossible to argue the unprecedented amount of money that this lobby is pouring into elections.
They're paranoid or like they're pointing to some shadowy cabal.
And that like he's like, and El Sayed and Mamdani are sort of like Pied Pipers who are sort of like, you know, selling, like, you know, they're saying, like this cabal controls everything or whatever.
Selling people an anti-Semitic bill of goods.
And like, and you know, like, and then like Chait will have to be like, you know, sure, like AIPAC has a huge amount of influence, but like they're not, it's not everything. You know, they don't control everything in American politics. And it's like, no one's arguing that they do, but they're saying that like they have an incredible weight and authority over like who can win an election.
Yes.
We've seen it over and over again where they can just drop in and like on one issue and one issue alone,
by flooding a race with money.
Even against Jewish Democratic candidates, they'll just drop $15, $20, $30 million to their chosen candidate and get someone out of there. So you talk about that malign influence. It's like, like you're creating this narrative of like, you know, a shady group pulling the strings or whatever. But like the way they talk about the huge shift that's undertaken in this country in terms of support for Palestine and hatred for the government and nation of Israel, they always talk about it like they've been totally caught off guard by it. And like they generally are totally caught off guard by it. But the way they talk about it, they're like, this is all part of a well-financed effort by Iran, Qatar, Russia, China that is using the influence to like sort of, and the influence of the social media and the algorithm to sort of like hack people's brains and feed them this like propaganda 24/7 that have gotten them to change their mind on this issue. And like, they think that because that's the way they see voters and that's the way they understand politics.
Well, and also they have they have undertaken their own propaganda efforts. Like, you know, if they could, like, you know, the algorithm isn't just a totally shadowy thing. It's based on like what people click on. And so like, you know, they also have a very well-funded effort in an effort to like brainwash people into supporting Zionism that is not working.
No, and it's like what they can't admit to themselves, and maybe they know this to be the case, you know, in their heart of hearts, but they certainly can never admit it publicly. People in this country have turned against Israel because of the actions undertaken by Israel.
Not because they're idiots.
Not because they've been like suckered into it because they saw something on TikTok.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like it's like,
and I'm sorry, maybe what they saw on TikTok was the bodies of dead kids.
Yeah, and like the videos on TikTok aren't fake.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're saying, like they're just being fed that, and that's like, you know, juicing like this phony narrative.
Who's creating those bodies?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a real thing that's happening, and that's what people are responding to.
Yes.
And like they have to conceive of politics in this idea of like
This tabula rasa way.
And then that people are just like dupes who are just totally programmed by whatever slop propaganda that they're fed.
They're giving away their game.
But that's what they do. That is what they do, and it's no longer working for them.
Exactly.
So their explanation for that is like, oh, the other side's doing what we do.
Yes.
And we need to stop that because it's evil and wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're admitting people are stupid and we don't respect our own voters. But it's only because people are stupid for the other side now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, really nasty stuff.
And like I said, like the good chance El Sayed does lose the general election. But like the point is, like they're not going to put this toothpaste back in the tube. If he loses the general election, I think it'll give them at least another election cycle of, like I said, the permanent 2016 that we've all been living through the past decade or so. It'll give them another breath, another squeeze at that lemon.
Because they'll have some example to point to.
Yeah, exactly.
But what drives me fucking nuts is like, we've also tried moderation. Like Hillary Clinton didn't win. Kamala Harris didn't win. So even if El Sayed loses in the general, and they will lose.
He'll be in the same position that these people are in.
Well, they're still in a worse position.
Also,
they still have more losses to their name.
And here's the other thing.
So let's at least try something different in a general election rather than their proven track record of losing.
And
that no one ever lays at their doorstep as a way to tar their entire political project.
Because if Haley Stevens won this primary and then lost the general election, that would never be a reflection on their politics.
No, it would never say or
the strategy that they're pursuing.
I guess maybe we should have backed a progressive who could have won in the general election. It'll just be like, well, let's keep trying what we're trying. And they'll also say, thank God we didn't elect El Sayed in the primary because he would have lost worse. That's the whole Bernie would have won.
And it's like losing is losing.
Well, we didn't try. We didn't test it.
It's like whether you lose by 1 vote or 10 million, it's still a loss.
Well, and again, the Democrats would rather lose their way than. Because
the only real loss to them is if they don't have control over and they can't enforce ideological and discipline on their voters and their candidates.
They can't continually emotionally blackmail Democrats.
That's a meaningful loss to them in terms of both money, their personal standing, prestige, and their chosen political beliefs.
It is an existential threat to them.
And the thing is, I give them credit. I don't think they are all just completely cynical operators. I mean, if you're not a cynical operator, you shouldn't be in politics. But I give them credit for what they actually believe in.
Yeah,
which is much further to the right than the average Democratic voter.
Yeah.
And then they're seeking to fight for that point of view, to stop policies that they think are bad and to enact policies that they believe are good. But we just need to have that's a real political that. It's just they are in a vanishingly small minority among the Democratic Party electorate writ large.
And there's been so much media coverage. Adam Johnson wrote about this for me.
Second shout out.
Big shout out. This piece about, and there's been so much media coverage about Israel is the wedge dividing Democrats. But the dishonesty about this framing is that it's dividing party leadership from the party, from the voters. It's not a wedge issue among Democratic voters. It is an 80-20 issue pretty much among Democratic voters. It is an 80-20 in the opposite direction among Democratic leadership, or, even
99-1.
99-1. And so, but that's never the framing. It's always about why are people raising such a stink about Israel and dividing our voters? Blaming the left wing of the party for dividing the voters.
I know it is the actions of the United States and Israeli governments that have brought this crisis to a head.
And the failure of Democratic elite or Democrats, elite Democrats to reckon with this. Kamala might have won had she moderated on Gaza, or had she said, "I will stop arming Israel." But that tactic never gets any airtime, and it never.
I'll note that in the lead up to when the polls did not have El Sayed up by double digits, a lot of these people
love polls.
Their attitude about Gaza or Palestine going into the primaries was that this is a loser. Voters don't care about this. Voters don't care about this.
Shut up about it.
Now that it looks increasingly clear that El Said is going to walk away with this primary. I'm just going to this guy. This is Daniel Goldman. He's the guy, the New York politician who just lost to Brad Lander.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Oh, yeah.
Zionist on Zionist violence in this race. But like he says here, if you were a supporter of the uncommitted movement, which was significantly responsible for Trump 2.0, then you were in no position to demand anything from Democrats. Well, it sounds like they're in the perfect position to demand things from Democrats.
Sorry, that's how leverage works.
But the point is that like it went from being an issue that nobody cares about to a problem because too many people care about it.
Well, and again, so they're kind of giving up the game there.
And like when they look at their like, you know, because there's like polling done on like the issues that like going into election that matter most to voters. And it's true that like Gaza, Israel, Palestine is usually like towards the bottom of that list and like single digits as compared to something like immigration or cost,
inflation.
Yeah, cost of living. Those are like the number one things. And I think what so they look at that and they're like, oh, like only 2% of people say this is a determinative factor in the election, like in their vote or whatever. But like, I don't think they really get it because like, it's like buying a house, right?
Yeah.
Like if you polled people on like, what is like the most important things you look for when you're buying a house? They would say, oh, like adequate square footage,
or location,
you know, like a backyard, a good school district. Not like nowhere in that list would you have a major issue for me were the previous occupants of this house brutally murdered.
Yeah.
So like that would probably be a very low percentage. But
if
you're buying the house and you find out that the previous family that lived there was brutally murdered,
then you're all of a sudden you're a single issue home buyer.
I think you wouldn't be buying the fucking house.
Yeah, then you're a single issue home buyer. Yeah.
And like in this case, or it's just like if like a candidate that like do they abuse their children?
Yeah.
Like, you know, most people wouldn't say that's a high priority because they assume that they're not.
Yeah, exactly.
But if a video comes out of them abusing their kids, I'd like...
Then, yeah.
By the way, speaking of abusing, have you been following this shit about that Ohio Congressman Max Miller?
No.
Holy shit.
What's happening there?
Holy shit. This guy, his ex-wife has alleged in court documents that he scalded her with boiling water.
Jesus Christ.
Held the gun to her head and broke their 2-year-old daughter's collarbone.
Fuck.
Now, this she is the daughter of another Republican congressman, a guy named Bernie Moreno. I don't know if you remember this guy.
Yeah.
You might remember him because his name was linked to, I think, a Grindr or an adult friend finder account seeking MVM one-on-one.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the V stand for?
I don't know, man versus man. I don't know.
I guess that is what
I was thinking 1v1.
I guess that's what gay sex is, man versus man.
I don't know. I don't understand all this lingo, okay? I don't understand this code speak,
that was a girlfriend test. That was a girlfriend. You guys could do that at home. It's like if you hear the Grindr notification sound on it.
Yeah, like Bob, I don't understand this code speak, okay? But I don't know, like I guess I'll just bring up that. And now like his ex-wife's lawyers have taken out a restraining order against him because he has put his hands on her lawyers.
Jesus Christ.
And continues to make direct contact with her legal representation.
That's
despite
crazy.
the fact that he has counsel himself.
That's
which is like
crazy.
Like wildly unhinged.
Yeah, like forget the custody battle. You are going to jail.
And you know, once again, just like I'll do this as a way of contrast between the two parties. Like, I genuinely think being a rapist or a domestic abuser, someone who abuses women and children, is like a prerequisite to be a Republican now.
Yeah, increasingly. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, to have like the skeleton in your closet is supporting Palestine. No, that would be a skeleton that I care about.
And I just like it because, like, I don't know, like, is this controversial at all? Like, are there any Republicans calling for him to, resign from office?
No, certainly not. Certainly not. And
breaking a 2-year-old your own 2-year-old daughter's collarbone.
And like that's hard to do. Child bones are like very pliable. Like that is really insane.
What a fucking sight. It's just like
and like the Democratic Party doesn't care about, would rather lose to guys like that.
They all have the psychology of family annihilators.
Yes. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I really think like that is like family annihilation writ large. I really think is the kind of like dominant mode of I don't know.
MAGA is
MAGA,
MAGA is so adjacent to family annihilation
because like
because they also seek to
to control women and children. Totally.
Yes.
Have hegemonic control.
And if you can't control them, annihilate them.
And exactly. If your wife wants to leave you or take the kids, like
or have an abortion.
If I can't have you, no one will.
Yeah.
And I'll kill all of you and then myself.
Yeah.
And like I think that's the way they feel about this country.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like it's like kill
if they can't
kill everyone.
If they can't have hegemonic control, they will not allow it to be shared with people who are not who are outside their
Yes.
control.
Yeah.
Or who flout their authority.
You know, like if,
'Cause, like,
if
there's nothing that-
immigrants in this country are going to have rights, like this isn't a country worth having.
Yeah, and like not only that, but like even citizens who like just who make fun of them.
Yeah.
Who flout their authority, who don't recognize their untrammeled
Yeah,
authority.
like quite literally arresting American citizens or green card holders who
Or how about killing them?
for free speech violations? Yeah, or murdering
or just
them.
killing them in
Yes.
broad daylight in the
Yeah.
streets of a major
You know,
American
black
city.
bagging them.
Well,
Oh boy.
all right. Well, I guess I will wrap things up here for today.
Yeah. Oh, this is fun.
Yeah,
We should do
always
this
enjoy
again.
seeing your girlfriend correspondent,
Yeah.
Catherine Krieger.
Thank you for having me.
Do you have anything that you'd like to plug? Anything coming up at the Intercept that you'd like to get on people's radar?
I've got a big investigation into an ICE detention center, really horrific stuff coming up. But I also just want to shout out, I run the opinion section, so please feel free to pitch me.
Hey, you guys got opinions?
Yeah, you guys got
Why
opinions.
don't you sell a few of them?
Yeah, why don't you sell a few of them and I could potentially pay you for them. First name, Catherine.Krieger@theintercept.com. Always looking for timely pitches. Hit me up. Happy to hear it.
And for the rest of you, I will just do another plug. Chunks is now available video on demand.
Chunks.
Patreon.com/ChunksTV.
Yeah.